You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Welcome, everybody, to the Border War podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. We are presented by 360 Vodka, and a lot to get to as we wrap up the final games of the regular season portion of the college basketball slate. Getting ready for the conference tournaments. Really exciting time. I'm Jarrett Sutton, joined as always by Jeff Hawkins. Jeff, we're at the end of the road, man. Light at the end of the tunnel, and lots of cover here for Mizzou as they just come off a good, hard-fought comeback win at LSU, put themselves in a position for still the chance at a double bye with the SEC tournament. They got to win at home against Ole Miss on senior day on Saturday to get that done and have some help from some other teams. Let's start first with, I want to hit on D'Moi Hodge, who broke the single-season steals record. He is now the top spot, the number one slot, first year as a transfer to Mizzou, joining the SEC, breaks the school record in steals. I really do think he's got a case for Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC. If you look at the numbers and his impact on defense, it's crazy in terms of steals, steal rate, his defensive rating. I don't know if he'll get it, but he is definitely in the conversation. And then obviously the three-point shooting, he was a weapon at both these two road games. Missouri wins at Georgia, at LSU. D'Moi Hodge sets the tone, and Dennis Gates said this after the game, that when they were looking to add players, and he knew D'Moi Hodge, and knowing D'Moi was a Horizon League Defensive Player of the Year, they really targeted trying to get D'Moi to Mizzou because of his defense and his shooting. He's a 40% three-point shooter on the year, and he's one of the best three-point shooters in the conference. He's a true 3-and-D guy. Yeah. What is that? I mean, it's just, I know he's an older player, but to jump leagues, first year in the SEC, first year at a new school, you're a coach but you're in a totally different environment, and you break the school record for steals. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, it is. And, I mean, to me, it just speaks of, where he's been and just his maturity. I mean, you don't normally see that in a lot of players, and that just goes to show his maturity. But, you see what he's done these last 5 games just from a defensive standpoint, too. These last 5 games, he's had 17 steals. I mean, that's 17 possessions. I mean, you know what I mean? If you really think about it from a possession standpoint, like that's 17 times where no one had to pass you the ball. Like, you created that situation with your defensive intensity, and I think that's really impressive to have 17 steals. But D'Moi, he's done it. He's done it all season, and you've been you've been very big on D'Moi. I love his game, and what a great kid, and to see have this type of success, because he's just been balling this last stretch, and obviously, especially what he's done the last 2 games, I think that's really remarkable. I won't give too much. I know we're going to talk about some of this stuff a little bit later, but he's just been a fun player to watch, and I think he's really a big, huge driving piece of why the Tigers are so successful, along with Coach Gates.
No question. You look at 5 steals, 5 made threes, and I've told you,
and I didn't say nothing about the threes. My bad. D'Moi. Hey, I'm talking about. Hey, I'm a defensive guy, man.
I know, man. But it's crazy. Yeah. It's his impact, because I think a lot of people that just are casual about it, like, oh yeah, and he's a great shooter. And it's like, well, I actually think his hands and his instincts defensively might be better than his 3-point shooting. I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it all year. I mean, and I love this word, consistency, right? Efficiency. Dude brings it every game. Like, if from a coaching standpoint, when you can put a guy on the floor that what you're gonna get from him every night. Like, you're put him on the floor, he's gonna make shots, he's gonna defend and get steals. And the thing is Gates gives D'Moi complete trust to kind of roam like a defensive back or like a safety. Yeah, where he had a couple steals in the LSU game last night where they were off the ball, where he reads the play, and it's a post up, and he'll just come out of nowhere and just get his hands right on the ball. And he has a great sense. And I know you've played with guys like this. It's almost frustrating when you're an offensive player, because they can target the ball, and they know how to hit down on the ball. They know how to not slap, and their anticipation is so good. He's one of the best I've seen in a Missouri uniform, and it speaks to why he's broken
the record.
Broke
the record for a reason.
Me and John Sunville talked about this months back of just like, man, D'Moi is just a game changer on defense. Like, he's undersized, and I know like the rebounding piece. Missouri usually is not, they're not winning the rebounding battle more times than not. Yeah. But they got guys that just force turnovers, and it happened again in that LSU game where I thought LSU when they put the ball on the floor, they were doing one of these where they're looking around.
Yeah.
Because Missouri came from everywhere to force turnovers. They forced 16 turnovers, and it felt like a lot of those are just Missouri just getting their hands on balls. And it starts with D'Moi. DeAndre's been pretty good in this area. But man, I had to spend some time to give D'Moi his love because he deserves it. I do think Coach Gates kind of wins a bat for him last night in his post game, which I love when coaches do this, when they're like, look, I think sometimes some coaches kind of get heat for it. And I know Bob Huggins after the Kansas game was talking about, our boy, he wanted his team to be in the NCAA tournament and talked about the committee and really tried to sell his team. I think this is what Dennis Gates did last night, trying to sell the SEC on D'Moi Hodge should be SEC Player of the Year. And I don't think it's that far off. I love that he said it because Missouri's won games, and the games they've won, D'Moi will have 3 or 4 steals.
Yeah.
And he'll have 4 or 5 threes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been what it's been for Missouri on offense. But a great night for D'Moi. Thought really carried the load for Missouri more times than not on both ends of the floor. Another guy that Dennis Gates brought with him, DeAndre Golston, 20 points, hit tough shots, hit a couple threes, very efficient, 7-12 from the field. In this game too, Missouri got off to a really bad start in the first half against LSU, and they've had bad halves before. We've seen it. DeAndre closed the half with another buzzer beater, and some guys.
That was a buzzer beater team, man. Dang, for real.
What's the deal? What's the deal? I don't know. It's crazy. Like,
ain't nothing wrong with that, though. Don't get me wrong.
No, hey, I'll take it. But it's just funny. Like DeAndre, this buzzer beater though wasn't a 3. It was he drove left, 2 dribbles left, jump stop, shot fake, and had an up and under off glass, and knew the clock, and got his shot up right at the buzzer and buried a shot up glass. I mean, he's got such a feel for wanting that moment and making tough shots. And the reason why I bring up DeAndre in that bucket is I do believe in momentum in closing halves, right? You always talk about starting halves, closing halves. It's a huge bucket because I think Missouri, at that time, they really didn't have much momentum going into the half. Yeah. They were trying to fight their way back. They were up 13. They gave up 47. They come right out at the start of the second half and immediately go on a run, and DeAndre Golston is a big part of that. That, to me, speaks to the experience of this team. Missouri's now 7-0 in games that are decided by 5 points or less. They've had four double-digit comeback wins now. They're never out, and they find ways to win close games too. They've had some horrible losses in terms of games where they've just been non-competitive, like Texas A&M and at Mississippi State. Those 2 games pretty much come to mind where they just weren't great, but they haven't really had any sort of bad loss where you're thinking, man, they got upset. They almost got that against LSU, and they found a way to close games.
Yeah, and to me, man, with this team is, you said it best. You can't count them out, and I think we talked. We have, this team is going to be who's going to want to play them in the tournament. I mean, it's going to be a team where like, all right, those Tigers are back in it. Here they go. Those Tigers are back in the tournament, and just the way Gates has them playing, man, it's It's great basketball, and to me, it's just the consistency of never giving up. And when you have teams that never give up, and when you have teams right now that are clicking late in the season, we talked about this last 3-game stretch. What'd you say, Jarrett? 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3, and they got 2 right now, and putting themselves in a position to get 3, and which I think they are going to get 3, and I'll knock on wood for you and do all that for all.
Appreciate that.
I'm not trying to put any bad juju on you guys or anything.
Well done, Jeff.
But I just think that they're locked in, and you can kind of see when a team's locked in, and they're playing loose and free, and when your guys are playing loose and free, and when your coach is coaching loose and free, and I think that's what Coach Gates has been doing. Just watch out, and they're clicking at the right time, and just to be able to close out these last two games against Georgia and LSU, and to be able to do it in fashion at LSU, trailing the whole game, and hitting that go-ahead three in the first time, taking the lead. I just think that just shows grit and toughness, and when you can play down a whole game but still stay in the game and be down, I forget, I don't know exactly. I think were they down as much as 14, 16? I think
it's 19.
19. Well, see, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. 19, and then still be able to get it close and still play behind until the last, the almost the last stretch of the game. I mean, that's impressive. That just goes to show you they're not going to give up. And when you have a team like that, you just have to be appreciative as a coach, as a fan base, and as a fan base, you just know it's something that you just always know. You're excited to watch those games because you can never count your guys out.
Yeah, Mizzou led for all of 97 seconds. They took the lead in that final 2 minutes. And, Jeff, we talked about this on our previous pod of finding ways to win close games. It usually means you got to get some stops.
Yeah.
And Missouri's defense, and look, if you want to pull up the KenPom and you want to pull up all the defensive ratings, Missouri's defense has been kind of the punching bag all year.
Yeah.
But man, I just it's funny how in the first half they couldn't guard anybody. I mean, LSU had a day. Adam Miller was hitting threes, KJ Williams was hitting shots, and they give up 47. You're thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. A game where, look, there's scenarios in play right now for Mizzou. They had to win.
Yeah.
And I just thought defensively, I mean, even Sean East was very good down the stretch defensively while he was on the floor late in the game. Nick Honor off the ball, defending aggressively, physically. They got rebounds. They forced some tough shots. LSU kind of played into their hands a little bit, but hey, they got stops and They
the game is made for. Yeah,
that's right. They didn't give up a bucket. It felt like the last 4 or 5 minutes, and I just think that speaks to them really locking up and realizing what they had at stake. But if you look to, I mean, over the Mizzou's 22 wins, D'Moi Hodge is averaging 16 points a game on 50% shooting from the floor. That's how important. In the 8 losses, I think D'Moi's averaging 9 and shooting 35. So I just go back to just D'Moi's impact, and that was on display. I thought D'Moi won them the game last night, period. Defensively, the steals and the shot making, it's a good win. Now you kind of flip the page and we transition just to the scenarios here, because I think there's a lot of conversation. I want to get your thoughts on this because, I mean, when you think so much about seeding and what line you want to be off of. Obviously, you don't want to be on that 8-9 line. That's tough. Missouri's got a chance to get off that line. The scenarios are really interesting because obviously they have to beat Ole Miss on Saturday. But if Arkansas and Auburn win, Mizzou's the 3 seed, which would be an unbelievable accomplishment if they can finish the league, 3rd in the league in Dennis Gates' first year. If Arkansas and Tennessee win, then Mizzou's the 4. And then outside of that, the scenarios would be Kentucky and Tennessee winning, Mizzou would be the 5, and Kentucky and Auburn winning, Mizzou would be the 4. So there's plenty at stake.
Yeah.
This is why we love sports, right? When you got one game left in your schedule. And in this case, it's the conference tournament seeding. But I think for Missouri, it plays such a huge piece in them getting off the 8-9 line. And I'd love to see them on the 7 or on the 6 come into the tournament.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of business to take care of.
Get that 7, like you said, 7-6. You know what I mean?
7 would be nice, man.
Yeah, take a 7. Everybody take a 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
here I am, man. Like I'm always like one game at a time. But I'm like, look, this stretch and these games matter. Like Alabama coming back and beating Auburn in overtime was an unbelievable game last night. Alabama and Auburn. Vandy goes to Kentucky and wins on the road. That was wild. So there's all these games that every game matters. And in the SEC, it's been kind of fun because that middle of the pack of the league, it's just been kind of a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Missouri's got
they're just in there throwing haymakers.
Exactly. And I mean, Alabama's had the League One now for they clinched it last night, but they've had a comfortable lead. And It's great for Missouri. They're 22-8. They're 10-7 in league play. They're in a great spot. They had a chance to win 11 games in Dennis Gates' first year and 23 overall.
Yeah,
man, it's pretty impressive. So we'll have a lot to cover as we break it down next week with SEC tournament play, and we'll be talking about that tournament bracket. I can't wait till Selection Sunday. You want it to be here tomorrow, but there's so much to go with the conference tournaments. But Jeff, we'll look forward to next week. Good luck to you as well. You got districts coming up with Pembroke. Yeah. So good luck to you guys, and we'll talk next week.
You betcha. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.